Put your hands where I can see them, or this night ends very differently. Officer Ryan Cole's voice cut through the rain as red and blue lights washed across the empty highway outside Atlanta. Naomi Brooks stood beside her black sedan with both hands raised, her dark coat soaked at the shoulders and rainwater running down her face. Behind her, traffic moved in distant streaks of white light, but no one slowed down. No one stopped. To every passing driver, it looked like an ordinary traffic stop. It was not. Ryan stepped closer, one hand resting near his holster and the other holding a flashlight directly against Naomi's eyes. He was a white officer in his early 40s, broad-shouldered, clean-shaven, and certain that the badge on his chest gave him complete control of the road. "On your knees," he ordered. Naomi did not move. "Officer, I have complied with every lawful instruction you have given me." Her voice was calm. Too calm for him. Ryan narrowed his eyes. "You people always start talking about the law when you get caught." The words hung between them. Cold. Deliberate. The rain struck the roof of Naomi's car like thousands of impatient fingers. Somewhere beneath the dashboard, a concealed federal camera recorded every movement. Every accusation. Every breath. Ryan did not know that. He only knew what he believed he saw. A black woman driving an expensive sedan after dark. A woman who had not lowered her eyes when he approached. A woman who spoke to him as though she expected to be treated with dignity. To Ryan, that was enough to become suspicious. "I asked why you stopped me," Naomi said. Ryan gave a humorless laugh. "You crossed the center line." "I did not." "Are you calling me a liar?" Naomi looked past him toward the patrol car. Its dashboard camera pointed slightly away from the roadside, positioned where it could capture almost nothing. That detail mattered. She had seen the same angle in 6 previous complaints. 6 traffic stops. 6 missing recordings. 6 drivers who claimed Ryan Cole had searched their vehicles, seized cash, and rewritten the reports before sunrise. Naomi had spent 4 months studying those files. Tonight, she had not. Expected to become the 7th. Ryan opened her driver's door without permission and leaned inside. "Step away from my vehicle," Naomi said. He turned sharply. "You do not give orders here." His flashlight swept across the passenger seat, where a sealed black case rested beneath a folded newspaper. Inside that case was an encrypted drive containing financial records, dispatch logs, and internal messages linked to Captain Mark Harlan. Evidence powerful enough to bring down an entire protection network. Ryan reached toward it. Naomi took 1 step forward. "Do not touch that case." The officer spun around and seized her wrist. For the first time, the stillness in Naomi's face changed. Not into fear. Into focus. Ryan twisted her arm behind her and forced her toward the wet hood. Metal handcuffs opened with a sharp click. "Now you are interfering with an investigation," he said. Naomi's cheek hovered inches above the rain-covered metal. Her pulse remained steady. Inside her coat sleeve, her thumb pressed twice against a hidden emergency transmitter. A silent signal traveled from the roadside to a federal command center 12 miles away. Ryan leaned closer. "You should have learned when to stay quiet." Naomi looked at his reflection in the dark windshield. "No, Officer Cole," she said softly. In the distance, several engines turned onto the highway at once. "You should have learned who was listening." 3 hours earlier, Naomi Brooks had left the Atlanta field office carrying a case no one outside the operation was supposed to see. The city was slipping into evening. Glass towers reflected the last orange light. Traffic pressed through downtown in slow, impatient waves. Inside Naomi's sedan, the radio remained off, leaving only the steady hum of the engine and the faint vibration of her encrypted phone against the console. She had driven this route dozens of times. Tonight felt different. In the passenger seat rested the sealed black case. Inside it were bank transfers, altered dispatch records, and messages exchanged between Captain Mark Harlan and officers under his command. One message appeared more often than the others. Cole handled it. Ryan Cole's name had surfaced in complaints for nearly 4 years. Drivers described cash disappearing during roadside searches. Evidence logs changed after midnight. Body camera files became corrupted without explanation. Every investigation ended the same way. Insufficient proof. Naomi had learned long ago that corruption rarely survived because it was invisible. It survived because the people who saw it were isolated, discredited, or frightened into silence. Her assignment was simple in language and dangerous in reality. Deliver the drive to a federal evidence team outside the city. Do not alert the local department. Do not make unnecessary stops. If followed, activate the transmitter. Naomi adjusted the rearview mirror. A patrol car had been behind her for 6 minutes. It remained 2 vehicles back through one intersection, then closed the distance when the road narrowed. She changed lanes carefully. The patrol car followed. No siren. No lights. Not yet. Naomi's expression stayed calm, but her attention sharpened. She checked her speed. 47 in a 50-mile zone. Both hands visible. Turn signal used. Nothing illegal. Then the lights came alive. Red. Blue. Violent against the darkening road. Naomi pulled onto the shoulder and stopped beneath a broken street lamp. Rain had just begun to fall, tapping softly against the windshield. She placed her license on the dashboard and kept her hands on the wheel. In the mirror, the officer stepped from his vehicle. Broad shoulders. Measured stride. Right hand resting too close to his holster. When his face entered the reflection, Naomi recognized him immediately. Ryan Cole. The man whose name appeared across 12 sealed pages inside the case beside her. He approached the driver's window and struck the glass twice with his flashlight. Roll it down. Naomi lowered it halfway. Good evening, officer. Ryan looked past her before looking at her. His eyes moved over the leather seats, the tailored coat, and the sealed case. Then his expression changed. Not because he recognized her. Because he believed he understood her. License and registration. Naomi handed them over. He barely examined the documents. Whose car is this? Mine. Ryan smiled without warmth. We'll see about that. At that moment, Naomi understood something important. This was no longer an accidental stop. The investigation had just found her. And Ryan Cole had no idea he was standing in front of the person sent to end it. Ryan returned to Naomi's window carrying her license between 2 fingers. He had been gone for 7 minutes. Long enough to run the plate. Long enough to confirm the car belonged to her. Long enough to decide that the truth did not matter. Step out of the vehicle, he said. Naomi kept both hands visible on the steering wheel. For what reason? Ryan bent closer to the open window. Because I told you to. Rain rolled from the brim of his patrol cap and struck the door. Behind him, the highway stretched dark and nearly empty, its wet surface reflecting the patrol lights like broken glass. Naomi studied his face. There was no uncertainty in it. Only expectation. He expected fear. He expected obedience without explanation. Most of all, he expected no consequences. Officer Cole, she said, you confirm the registration is valid. His eyes hardened at the sound of his name. I asked you to step out. Naomi opened the door slowly and emerged into the rain. She stood beside the sedan, calm and upright, while Ryan moved around her as though searching for a reason to justify what he had already decided. He looked inside the back seat. Opened the rear door. Then reached toward the trunk release. You do not have permission to search my vehicle, Naomi said. Ryan stopped. For 1 second, the mask slipped. You nervous about something? I am stating my rights. He laughed under his breath. People with nothing to hide usually cooperate. The line was familiar. Naomi had read it in 3 complaints. One driver had lost $8,000 in cash intended for a restaurant purchase. Another had been detained for 2 hours while officers searched his vehicle without finding anything illegal. A third had signed a statement he could barely read because Ryan promised he could go home if he cooperated. Different nights. Same language. Same officer. Naomi looked toward the patrol car. Its camera was angled away from them. Again. Ryan followed her gaze and smiled. You looking for an audience? No, she replied. I am wondering why your camera cannot see us. His smile vanished. He stepped closer until only inches separated them. You need to stop acting like you are in charge. Naomi held his gaze. The hidden camera beneath her dashboard captured the words clearly. Every syllable. Every pause. Then Ryan reached into the sedan and lifted the sealed black case from the passenger seat. The change in Naomi was immediate. Put that down. He turned the case in his hands. What is inside? Protected federal material. Ryan gave a low laugh. Of course it is. He placed the case on the hood and reached for the latches. Naomi moved 1 step closer. Ryan blocked her with his forearm. Back up. You are interfering with a federal investigation. For the first time, something uncertain passed through his expression. But arrogance returned quickly. You expect me to believe you are federal? Naomi said nothing. Silence made him bolder. He pulled one handcuff from his belt. Behind the rain and flashing lights, the hidden transmitter continued sending every word. And 12 miles away, federal agents began moving. Ryan set the black case on the hood of Naomi's sedan. Rainwater streamed around it in thin silver lines. Last chance, he said. Tell me what is inside. Naomi remained still. Her right wrist was already locked behind her back. The open handcuff hung from Ryan's hand, waiting for the second click. You have been told that the case contains protected federal material, she said. Do not open it. Ryan's expression tightened. To him, her calmness was not discipline. It was defiance. He forced her forward until her palms pressed against the wet metal. The hood was cold beneath her hands, and the patrol lights flashed across the windshield in violent waves of red and blue. A pickup truck slowed in the nearest lane. The driver looked toward them. Ryan turned and shouted, "Keep moving." The truck accelerated into the rain. Once again, the road became empty. Once again, Ryan believed no one important was watching. He searched Naomi's coat pockets without asking permission. He found her phone, a slim wallet, and a small metal object no larger than a coin. What is this? Naomi glanced at the emergency transmitter resting in his palm. A mistake you should not make worse. Ryan stared at it, then tossed it onto the hood beside the case. You really enjoy pretending to be important. He reached for the second cuff. Naomi heard the click. Then the chain tightened around both wrists. For one brief moment, she closed her eyes. Not from fear. From calculation. The transmitter had already sent the signal. The concealed camera was still recording. And Ryan was still talking. That was what she needed. Call your supervisor, Naomi said. Ryan laughed. You do not get to make requests. Call Captain Mark Harlan. The laughter stopped. Rain struck the hood between them. Ryan's eyes narrowed. How do you know that name? Naomi turned her head just enough to see him. You should call him. Ryan stepped away and pulled out his department phone. He looked toward his patrol car, then toward the sealed case. His confidence returned in fragments. Maybe I will. He moved several feet away, believing the rain would cover his voice. It did not. The microphone beneath Naomi's dashboard caught every word. "Harlan," Ryan said when the call connected. "I stopped someone carrying a locked case. She claims it is federal." A pause. Then Ryan's expression changed. "What do you mean, leave it alone?" Naomi listened carefully. Ryan lowered his voice. "No, she has not identified herself." Another pause. His eyes moved toward Naomi. Then toward the hidden camera he still did not know existed. "She knows your name." The silence on the other end lasted longer this time. Ryan's face lost color. Captain Harlan finally spoke loudly enough for Naomi to hear through the rain. "Get away from that car. Now." Ryan looked toward the highway. At first, there was only darkness. Then headlights appeared in the distance. 1 pair. Then 3. Then 6. Black federal vehicles moved toward them in formation. Naomi slowly lifted her head. Ryan stared at the approaching lights, his hand still holding the phone. For the first time that night, he was no longer deciding what happened. Next. The first federal vehicle stopped 30 feet behind Ryan's patrol car. Then another pulled in ahead of Naomi's sedan, sealing the shoulder from both directions. Doors opened almost at once. Men and women in dark jackets stepped into the rain, their movements controlled, coordinated, and silent. Yellow letters flashed across their backs beneath the patrol lights. FBI. Ryan remained frozen beside the hood, his department phone still pressed to his ear. Captain Harlan was shouting now, but the words had become useless noise. "Cole," the voice snapped through the speaker, "leave the scene before they identify you." Too late. Special Agent in Charge Thomas Grant emerged from the lead vehicle. He was tall, silver-haired, and carried no visible urgency because everyone around him already understood what needed to happen. His eyes moved first to the sealed case. Then to Naomi's wet coat. Then to the handcuffs around her wrists. Something cold entered his expression. "Officer," Grant said, "step away from Agent Brooks." Ryan blinked. The title reached him before the meaning did. "Agent?" Naomi turned slowly, her hands still restrained behind her. Rain ran from her hairline to her jaw, but her voice remained steady. "Special Agent Naomi Brooks, Federal Bureau of Investigation." Ryan looked from her to the approaching agents. His mouth opened, but no words came. Imagine believing you control every person on a dark road. Then imagine discovering the woman you forced against a car was the one directing the investigation into your department. Ryan lowered the phone. She never showed identification. Naomi glanced toward the wallet he had removed from her coat and placed on the hood. Grant picked it up, opened it, and held the federal credentials beneath the patrol light. "You searched her," he said. "You found this." Ryan's eyes shifted toward the road. Measuring distance. Looking for escape. 2 agents moved behind him. "Hands away from your weapon," Grant ordered. "This is a misunderstanding," Ryan said quickly. She was acting suspicious. The vehicle matched what? Naomi asked. Ryan stopped. There had been no stolen car report. No traffic violation. No valid reason for the stop. Only a decision he had made the moment he saw her behind the wheel. Grant unlocked Naomi's handcuffs. The metal released with 2 quiet clicks. She rubbed her wrists, then looked at the black case. "Secure the evidence," she said. An agent lifted it from the hood. Ryan's phone suddenly spoke again. Harlan's voice burst through the rain. "Ryan, destroy the case if you have to." Every agent heard it. So did the microphone inside Naomi's car. Naomi looked at Ryan as the remaining color disappeared from his face. "You wanted to know who was listening," she said. Behind him, an agent reached for his service weapon. Now you know. Ryan's service weapon was removed before he could object. One agent secured it. Another took his phone. A third guided him away from Naomi's car while Thomas Grant ordered the entire roadside scene preserved. No one shouted. No one needed to. The authority Ryan had used so carelessly was being stripped from him through procedure, evidence, and witnesses. He looked toward Naomi. "This is excessive," he said. "I was doing my job." Naomi stood beside the open driver's door as an agent photographed the marks around her wrists. "Your job did not require inventing a traffic violation." Ryan's jaw tightened. "I saw suspicious behavior." "What behavior?" He glanced at the black sedan. The expensive interior. The sealed case. Then at Naomi. The answer was written across his face before he spoke. Grant stepped closer. "Choose your next words carefully." Ryan said nothing. Silence had protected him before. Now it only made the truth clearer. The hidden camera was removed from beneath Naomi's dashboard and connected to a field monitor. The footage began with Ryan approaching the car. It showed him ignoring the registration. Angling his patrol camera away. Reaching inside without consent. Removing Naomi's credentials and placing them on the hood. Then came the words. "You people always start talking about the law when you get caught." Ryan watched himself say them. For the first time, he seemed to understand that this stop could not be rewritten. His report would not control what happened next. The recording would. An agent approached Grant with Ryan's department phone. "We traced the call," she said. "Captain Harlan is leaving headquarters." Naomi looked toward the highway. "He knows the drive connects him to the seizures." Grant nodded. "Local units loyal to him may try to interfere." Ryan's expression shifted. Fear. Not for Naomi. Not for the people he had stopped. For himself. "Harlan will say I acted alone." Naomi met his eyes. "Did you?" Ryan looked away. A second transmission came through the federal radio. Captain Harlan's vehicle had been located heading south, followed by an unmarked department SUV. Grant issued orders calmly. One team would remain at the roadside. Another would intercept Harlan. A third would secure the police headquarters before records could disappear. Ryan listened as the operation expanded around him. He had believed this was one traffic stop. One woman. One dark road where his word would be stronger than hers. But the sealed case contained names, dates, bank records, and messages from officers who had turned public authority into a private system of fear. Naomi stepped closer. "Tell us where Harlan keeps the original seizure logs." Ryan stared at the wet pavement. "If I help you, what happens to me?" Naomi's expression did not change. "You answer for what you did." In the distance, sirens moved toward the city. Ryan finally lifted his head. "Basement evidence room," he whispered. "Locker 17. Grant turned toward his team. Naomi watched the agents move. The network had begun to break. Not because Ryan had suddenly found courage. Because the truth had left him nowhere else to hide. Captain Mark Harlan never reached the county line. 2 federal SUVs boxed in his unmarked vehicle beneath an overpass south of Atlanta, while another team entered police headquarters with a preservation order and a list of names. By midnight, the building no longer belonged to silence. Agents moved through the basement evidence room beneath harsh fluorescent lights. Dust covered the upper shelves. Broken boxes leaned against concrete walls. Everything looked neglected. Locker 17 did not. Its lock was new. Inside were handwritten seizure logs, cash count sheets, unsigned property forms, and envelopes marked with dates that matched the complaints Naomi had studied for months. One envelope contained $12,000. Another held jewelry taken during a stop that had never appeared in the official system. The evidence was not hidden like treasure. It was stored like routine. That was the most disturbing part. At the roadside, Ryan sat in the back of a federal vehicle, his wet uniform clinging to his shoulders. Through the window, he watched agents photograph his patrol car from every angle. The camera position. The open doors. Naomi's credentials on the hood. The handcuffs resting beside them. Each image closed another path of denial. Naomi stood beneath a temporary canopy while Grant received updates through his radio. Harlan is in custody, he said. Headquarters is secured. 2 officers are cooperating. Ryan heard him. His face tightened. Who? Grant did not answer. Fear moved through Ryan faster than regret ever had. Naomi opened the recovered seizure log. Ryan's initials appeared beside multiple entries. Some had been crossed out. Others had been rewritten in a second hand. You knew where the money went, she said. Ryan stared at the floor. Harlan controlled everything. That is not what I asked. He looked up. For the first time that night, there was no arrogance in his expression. Only exhaustion. He told us which cars to stop, Ryan said. Rental plates. Out-of-state drivers. People carrying cash. Black drivers. Ryan hesitated. That hesitation was an answer. Naomi closed the log. You turned prejudice into a selection system. Ryan shook his head quickly. It was not like that. Then tell me what it was like. He searched for a safer version of the truth. None remained. We knew fewer people would believe them. The words landed quietly. No dramatic confession. No raised voices. Just the cold explanation behind years of missing money and dismissed complaints. Grant signaled to the recording agent. Ryan had just given them what the documents could not. Intent. Naomi looked at the man who had forced her against a car because he believed her voice carried less weight than his. He had been wrong. Not because she was FBI. Because every person he had targeted had always deserved to be heard. Officer Cole, she said, you are being taken into federal custody. Ryan looked toward his badge. An agent removed it from his uniform. The small metal shield rested in a gloved hand, powerless now. Naomi watched him lower his eyes. He had used the badge to decide who mattered. That night, the truth decided what the badge was worth. By sunrise, the operation had spread beyond one police department. Federal agents carried sealed boxes from headquarters while technicians copied dispatch records, body camera archives, and internal messages before anyone could alter them. Outside, reporters gathered behind barricades, their cameras aimed at a building that had spent years insisting nothing was wrong. Captain Mark Harlan entered through the front doors in handcuffs. He had once walked those steps with officers moving aside for him. Now no one saluted. Inside the federal field office, Naomi sat across from Ryan Cole in a small interview room. He wore a plain detention uniform. The badge was gone. So was the confidence that had filled the roadside hours earlier. A recorder rested between them. You said Harlan selected the vehicles, Naomi began. How were the stops assigned? Ryan looked toward the one-way glass. If I answer, I want protection. You will receive lawful consideration, she said. Not immunity from your choices. He rubbed his hands together. For years, Ryan had believed cooperation meant weakness. But the men who taught him loyalty were already blaming him through their attorneys. Harlan claimed Ryan acted without orders. 2 supervisors denied knowing about the missing money. The network had protected itself by teaching every member that someone else would fall first. Ryan finally spoke. A private message group had been used to share plate numbers and travel patterns. Officers targeted drivers unlikely to return for court hearings. Cash was recorded as suspected criminal proceeds, then divided before official inventory. Complaints were redirected. Camera failures were scheduled. Reports were rewritten before morning review. Naomi listened without interrupting. Each sentence confirmed what victims had said from the beginning. Not confusion. Not isolated misconduct. Design. Grant entered carrying a printed list. 38 traffic stops matched Ryan's description. 26 involved black drivers. 11 involved families traveling from out of state. One name stopped Naomi. Jerome Watkins. A construction contractor whose complaint had been dismissed 2 years earlier after $12,000 disappeared from his truck. The same amount found in locker 17. By afternoon, Jerome stood inside the field office holding a federal evidence receipt. His hands trembled as Naomi explained that the money would be returned after final processing. "They said I was lying," he whispered. Naomi looked at him. "They were counting on you to believe them." Jerome's eyes filled, but he did not lower his head. Outside, more victims arrived. A nurse. A college student. A retired mechanic. People who had carried shame for years because authority had told them their truth was worthless. The case was no longer about the black FBI agent Ryan had stopped in the rain. It was about everyone he had stopped before her. Naomi watched the waiting room fill. Ryan had targeted the wrong woman. But justice would mean proving that no victim should need a federal badge before the system decides to listen. 9 months later, the federal courtroom was silent as Ryan Cole stood before the judge without his uniform. The man who had once commanded a dark highway with one hand near his weapon now wore a plain gray suit. No badge reflected beneath the lights. No patrol car waited outside. Only the victims sat behind him, filling 3 rows with faces he had once reduced to suspicious descriptions. Captain Mark Harlan sat at a separate table. He had denied everything until the recovered messages, seizure logs, and recorded phone call made denial impossible. The case had revealed 46 unlawful stops, hundreds of thousands of dollars in missing property, and years of reports rewritten to hide racial targeting. Ryan had accepted a plea agreement after agreeing to testify against Harlan and the remaining officers. Cooperation reduced his sentence. It did not erase his choices. Naomi Brooks sat beside Thomas Grant near the prosecution table. The marks from the handcuffs had disappeared months ago, but she still remembered the rain, the cold hood beneath her palms, and Ryan telling her that she was not in charge. The judge asked whether she wished to speak. Naomi stood. She did not look at Ryan first. She turned toward the gallery. Jerome Watkins sat beside his wife. The nurse who had lost her savings held her daughter's hand. The retired mechanic wore the same work jacket he had been wearing the night officers searched his truck. These people were not believed because they lacked evidence, Naomi said. They were not believed because the system had already decided whose voice carried authority. Then she faced Ryan. "You targeted me because you thought I was alone." His eyes lowered. "But I was carrying the testimony of everyone you had silenced before me." The judge sentenced Ryan for civil rights violations, unlawful seizure, and conspiracy. Harlan received a longer sentence for directing the operation and obstructing federal investigators. The department entered federal oversight. Independent reviewers reopened every related complaint. Recovered money was returned. Several officers lost their certifications. When the hearing ended, reporters waited outside beneath a clear Atlanta sky. One of them asked Naomi whether justice had been served. She paused on the courthouse steps. "Justice is not one officer losing his badge," she said. "Justice is building a system where no one needs my title before their dignity matters." Across the plaza, Ryan was escorted toward a federal vehicle. He looked back once. Naomi did not smile. His fall was not her victory. The victims standing behind her were. Ryan had believed authority belonged to the person controlling the stop. But a badge never made him the law. It only revealed what he chose to do when he thought no one powerful was watching. That night, he targeted a black woman in the rain. He learned too late that she carried more than federal authority. She carried the truth. And truth was the only power he could not order onto its knees.